If you're looking at buying a house right now in the Des Moines Metro, then you're probably standing at a crossroads right now. You're either thinking that maybe you should buy a new construction, like those that are popping up in Waukee and Ankeny, and go with the new build, or you're thinking maybe you should go with the resale, some of those more established neighborhoods in some other locations in the Des Moines Metro. Well, in today's market, it seems like things are changing a bit. We're seeing more builder incentives right now for the new construction homes that we've seen in the recent past. And, we're seeing prices stay steady on the resales. That's kind of catching people off guard. Today, I'm going to pull back the curtain. I'm going to show you some of the pitfalls, maybe some of the fees in some of the new construction homes that are hidden that you might not think about. And also, I'm going to talk about whether, some of those resales might be a little more expensive in the long run than even a new construction. So stick around to the end. I'm going to give you an easy way to figure out what fits best for you, whether it be new construction or resale. And I'm also going to tell you exactly what I would do if I were moving my family to the Des Moines area right now today. Before we get started, hit that subscribe button. I drop videos about the Des Moines, Iowa real estate market every single week, and this channel is going to save you time and money and at least 2 migraines. My name is Andre Duga. I'm a local realtor here in the Des Moines area, and I help people relocate to the area, whether you look in between like Waukee and Altoona and everywhere in between, or anywhere else in the Des Moines Metro. I'm here to help. Do me a favor, leave a comment in the section below whether you are on team new construction or you're on team resale. People have strong opinions about that, especially with a lot of the new construction popping up in the Waukee and on the west side of the Des Moines area. Leave me a comment. I'd love to hear what your reasons are, or just whether or not you're on the, which side of the aisle you're on. Context matters, and the Des Moines market is not sleepy anymore. In fact, looking back at the beginning of 2026, we're seeing kind of a shift, and new construction is no longer just a luxury, it's a large chunk of our inventory. Looking back at the data for the last 6 months, we're seeing that new construction accounts for 30 to 35% of the closings on our MLS here locally. In my business, it's about 50-50. Some people, go either way. A lot of times they'll switch halfway at, midstream, going either new construction or resale. Here are some numbers that you need to know. The 2 powerhouse counties are Polk and Dallas County. In 2025, Polk County kind of stayed steady with their permits, but Dallas County, think like Waukee and Grimes and that area on the west side of the metro, they nearly doubled the permits that they issued versus what they did 5 years ago. We issued over 3,200 permits last year in the Des Moines Metro. And even though construction kind of slowed down, at the end of 2025, basically due to winter weather and stuff like that, it is getting into a new fast gear, and the momentum is getting really fast right now. A lot of people are moving here because of jobs and affordability, and the builders are racing to keep up. Here is the case for new construction homes. Buyers aren't, wrong for wanting a new construction home. The main promise that a new construction sells is that there are no surprises. You've got great energy standards, 2026 energy standards. You're not getting into a 1940s Beaverdale brick home that was built, with lower standards, maybe some little bit of DIY electrical, or basements that have water in them or stuff like that. You're looking at current energy safety standards of 2026. Another one of the positives of buying new is that you're going to get a warranty. You're going to get like a 1, 2, 10 warranty. That is 1 year for workmanship, 2 years for mechanicals like HVAC and plumbing, and then you're going to get 10 years for structural. I kind of a pro tip that I want to tell anybody who buys a new construction is that at the 11-month mark, you do a home inspection. That's a nominal fee. Anywhere from $400 to $600 for a good home inspection, and then you get all that fixed before the warranty runs out. I've actually had some people tell me that they on you know older homes, they get an inspection once a year. I think that's a little bit of an overkill. Maybe 2 or 3 years, I would get an inspection and just fix everything. That'll save you money in the long run, and it'll let you see some of the problems that you're having in your house that you may not know about. So you're getting a home that's very efficient. The winters here are no joke. It gets quite cold here, and you're not going to deal with a home that has 40% higher heating bill in the winter when you're getting a new build with the energy efficiency of the new builds. So that's a big advantage. Another advantage is incentives, builder incentives. We're seeing a few of those recently. Some of these builders are buying down the interest rate. Right now the interest rate is somewhere around 6.5, and some of these builders are buying the interest rate down to 5.5% for the life of the loan. Other incentives also. Anyway, incentives are a big deal. You may also get that in resale, but a lot of these new builders are offering some of these incentives. All right, so some of the negatives of new builds. One I want to talk about is, a lot of people don't think that they need to do an inspection. I usually talk them into it. They usually take my advice, but you'd be surprised of some of the corners that some of these builders have, can take. I was surprised to see on one of my recent ones that they didn't put enough insulation in the attic. It's an easy fix, but if you don't do an inspection, you're not going to know that. I'm not climbing up into the attic. Maybe you would if you're buying a new house. But anyway, there are little things that the builder is going to fix. I mean, it's a brand new house, so any little thing. A lot of times, I will tell people not to ask for anything that doesn't cost more than $500. If it's 500 or more, go ahead and ask for it. Well, in a new build, you can ask for practically everything because it's a new house and it should be a new house. They're not perfect, by the way. They never are. That was one of the things that I noticed when I built my house. I was like, I expected a perfect house, but you never do get a perfect house. Anyway, so that's one of the negatives of new build. One of the other negatives is if you go into the design center, what they're showing you on a price for that new build is the base model. A lot of times, they're not showing you what it would cost for the new granite countertops and the soft close cabinets and drawers and that custom tile shower and the finished basement and extras, and they can really add up when you're going to the design center really quickly, um, as opposed to that base model. So don't get caught into that trap where you go in and you're looking at things and you want to go ahead and upgrade these things. They can add up, anywhere from $10,000 to $50,000 added to the price of the house. So be careful with that. So another thing you're going to want to look out for is the lot premium. You're going to pay a little bit extra for that little bit of extra room on the cul-de-sac lot, or that lot looking over the pond, or that lot on the outskirts of the neighborhood where your backyard is a field or some trees or something like that. You're going to pay a premium for those lots. It's not going to be the same as the one in the middle of the street that has, is right next to your neighbor and doesn't have as much room. So anyway, just look out for that. Another one of the negatives is for new constructions is like the established neighborhood is what I call it. The stick in the front yard that is a tree. It's going to take a while for that to grow up into a mature tree like you see in some of the established neighborhoods, like closer to downtown Des Moines. And also privacy. A lot of times the neighborhoods will restrict what you can build for a fence in the backyard. Maybe you can't build a privacy fence even though you may want to. I have had people, who have dogs who need a privacy fence. Otherwise, their dogs are going to bark all the time at the neighbor's dogs or the neighbor's barbecuing or whatever it is. So you need to look out for that kind of thing. Established neighborhoods, that to me is one of the biggest negatives of looking at a new construction area, because you're not going to know what the pool is going to look like because it's coming soon. Anyway, that to me is probably one of the biggest negatives. It's not that bad. if you want a new construction, that's one of the things that you just have to deal with. This is a good spot to talk about a question that I get asked every once in a while is, should I avoid homes that were built during the COVID problem? Because of the shortages, they had a problem getting windows and construction materials, and the prices of those things went way up. I don't really want to get a whole lot into that right now, but my advice is, they still uh, adhered to uh, great construction standards, and they may have had a problem with the price of getting materials and getting them on time, and that may have cost them. But a house that was built in 2021 has had time to settle, and you're going to see problems if there are any major problems in a good inspection. So my advice is just to don't panic. If you like a house and it was built at that time, that you don't need to really worry about it that much. Just get a really good inspection, and I think you'll be okay. All right, so what are the positives of a resale neighborhood, an established neighborhood? I talked about it before. One of the biggest things for me is those established trees and the way that the neighborhood looks. Think of like Waterbury and Waveland, near Waveland Golf Course, near Drake, right there near Valley Junction. All those neighborhoods are fantastic neighborhoods with some really beautiful trees and well-established areas. That to me is a huge positive of buying a resale home, especially if you can find one that's been well kept or maybe even upgraded in those areas. I think it's a really good buy. And anyway, those are some of the positives. Another thing is, what you see is what you get. You are looking at the community pool. Instead of in a new construction area, you have to imagine what the community pool is going to look like, or what the park is going to look like. In these established neighborhoods, the parks are already there, the community pools are already there, all the green spaces, they're already there. You don't have to wait on what the HOA is going to do to build this neighborhood. In fact, a lot of times you don't have to worry about an HOA at all, because of inactivity. Some of these HOAs are so old and they don't really apply, because they don't really have to look out for new things that somebody's going to put in this neighborhood. That could also be a negative, but a lot of times it's a positive, because the people in these neighborhoods keep them up, and you don't really have to worry about the HOAs a lot. Another thing with resale is the negotiation power. You're going to be able to negotiate the price a little better based on some of the repairs that need to be done. You're going to do an inspection. Speaking of those trees I mentioned earlier, you got to be careful with that, trees close to the house. Anyway, I'm going to talk about that in a minute. But negotiating power. A lot of times with new construction, the builders are going to stay firm, because that price, they're not going to negotiate on price very much, because that is going to affect the sale of the next house down the street. With resale, that's not the case. So you got a little bit more negotiating power in some of these areas with some of the repairs and stuff like that. So the negatives of buying a resale, I talked a little bit about it. A positive is all the beautiful trees, but that's also a negative. These trees can, if they're close to the house, you don't want anything with an overhanging branch on the house, or maybe a tree touching the house. Trees close to the house can be a major problem. I've had situations. You definitely are going to want to, if you have any trees, you're going to want to do like a sewer scope, or at least check that out really good. Your inspector is going to do that. You're going to want to check in the basements for water intrusion. That's common in basements on resale homes that have been built a long time ago. More recent builds, like 2010, you don't really have to worry about that. Even maybe after 2000, but the ones that were built before and maybe redone, you got to look out for that kind of stuff. Also, radon is a big deal here in Iowa, and we test rigorously for that. I highly recommend you do a radon test. It's not that expensive, and it can cause problems. So anyway, those are the problems, but those are not really only specific to resale. That also is for new construction, not things like an old roof. That is specific to a resale, but you get the picture. Resales, you just have to do a little bit more inspecting and a little bit more thinking about what can cause a problem in the future. And so you get a really good inspector and you take care of that. And you just have to deal with some of those problems and be ready to walk away if they don't want to fix those problems. All right, so which one do you buy? Which one is a better buy? To be honest, it really is a tough decision. I know you already know that, but it's really about what you feel most comfortable with. If you have to have, the nice new tile shower and the large open concept of these new builds, maybe the big kitchen, granite countertops, all that kind of stuff, then you're probably going to go new construction. If you're like me and you really like, driving into a neighborhood with large trees, kind of a walkable neighborhood with shaded trees, not that the new construction doesn't have walkable neighborhoods, a lot of them do. But, if you want those large trees and a great backyard and don't have to worry about what they're going to build next to you because it's an empty lot right now, then you're going to steer towards the resale. I personally, I would tell you what I would do. I would personally go for the resale. The large trees, the established communities where they have a nice park next door, really close by. For me, it's the trees and the walkability and the shade and all that kind of stuff. But you really have to watch out. I personally would want that house to be recently redone. I still want some of the, the nice new tile shower. Maybe they've redone some of that, or maybe I buy it cheap enough that I can do it. So that's what I would do. If I don't get that, if I don't find it on the market right now and I need to move soon, then I'm going new construction. So it's really about what you feel comfortable with, and we can work that out. It's really about how you feel when you walk into that house. When you walk into the house that you're eventually going to get, I see it all the time on the faces of the new buyers that I walk through these houses with. And when they walk into the right one, they really do know it. And it's what they've been looking for. Every once in a while, you get somebody who doesn't really care too much, and they just want a new house, or they just want a different house, and maybe it's the price. But a lot of times it's that feel when you walk in. What do you feel? Do you feel comfortable when you walk into that house? Do you feel comfortable when you're driving into that neighborhood? So anyway, I hope that helps. If you are thinking about moving to the area, I would love to help you find exactly what you're looking for, whether it be new construction or resale. Give me a call and we can get together and find exactly what you're looking for. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate you. I'll see you on the next video.